Welcome to the Sportlight podcast for parents, coaches, and athletes. The Sportlight refers to the time in an athlete's life when they have increased ability to affect the culture around them and the increased opportunity to learn life's lessons through sports. This podcast aims to help parents and coaches capitalize on their athletes' precious time in the Sportlight. The Sportlight podcast is brought to you by Especially for Athletes program.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sportlight podcast. Dustin, how are you, man?
Doing great, Shad. Good to be with you again, man.
It's always good to get together, and I've been watching all the good you're doing, going around meeting with all these schools. Now that the football season's behind us a little bit, you're out and about even more than normal. It's fun to see all those pictures and see all the youth you're meeting with.
Well, thanks, man. And likewise, this is a fun time of the year for both of us. We get to obviously do these weekly podcasts, which is still fairly new. We've been doing it 6 months or so, which I love, but we talk about it all the time, that the real enjoyment is when we get to go out and get in front of parents and especially the kids that we speak with and work with them. And so, yeah, now that we're a little deeper into the school year and schools sort of have their feet underneath them, it's we're starting to get more and more of those set up, and you and I will be out in front of a lot of kids here the next several months.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited for that. That really is the best part of this. And so I look forward to it, as I know you do. Well, Dustin, today for our podcast, I thought we would focus on one of our core principles, which is the principle of seek to bless, not to impress. And recently you've been focusing on that word seek. And so to begin, I thought I would emphasize just a few things that we have emphasized in the past as we've taught these principles. In past presentations, we talked about two words, courage and compassion. Courage is acting in spite of your fear. It's not an absence of fear. And compassion is that driving motive within you, that feeling you have that makes you feel a desire to reach out to someone, to help someone. And we're asking our athletes as we go around to speak, no matter who, if they're a pro athlete or if they're a little peewee football player, to have courage and compassion. Compassion makes you want to do something. Courage allows you to do it in spite of your fears. And Dustin, you and I have talked about this story someone shared with me that was really a paradigm shifting story, where he took out a hunting dog. And he had all daughters like me. So maybe that's why this resonated with me. But he was so excited to get son-in-laws someday. And his daughter brought home a son. And this guy loved to hunt. And his name's Jack. And his son-in-law was a hunter. And anyway, they go out to go hunting. And they hop through this barbed wire fence to get back to where they're going to hunt. And they finally get upon some birds and they shoot a duck, and it falls into this pond, and he tells his dog to go fetch it up. And he had bragged all about this dog to this son-in-law and just said, man, I have the best hunting dog you can imagine. And so he was excited to show off his dog and sends his dog to get the bird, and the dog reluctantly goes and gets this bird from this edge of the pond. And then they shoot another bird and it falls in the pond, and he tells him to fetch it up, and the dog won't go jump in the water, which was just super weird. And so he forces the dog into the water, and he just does this like 10-foot loop and gets out on the other side. And the son-in-law says something to the effect of, I'm not comfortable shooting birds if the dog's not going to retrieve him. And so Jack was feeling like super dejected. They get back to their truck. He tells his dog to load up in the back of the truck, and the dog won't do it. So he, frustrated, picks up his dog, throws it in the back of his truck, and looks down at his hands, and his hands are covered in blood. And he has a 6-inch gash on the bottom of the dog on the bottom of his belly. And when they hopped through that barbed wire fence, the dog had gashed his belly. And so this person was sharing this story with me, and he made this statement at the end. He said, most of the time when people are acting in an abnormal way, or even a way that's not acceptable, they're injured, they're not idiots. And that lesson stuck out to me so much, because I think sometimes we look at people who might need the most help, and we excuse ourselves from helping them because we say things like, well, they brought this upon themselves, if they wouldn't act like that, if they wouldn't dress like that, if they would do this or that, maybe they would have a few more friends or whatever. And what I love about that story and why we teach it to our athletes periodically as we go around is that most of the time, when we see someone who's going through a hard time, even if they're acting in a way that annoys people, it's because they're injured. They have some things going on in their life. They're lonely, they're hurt, they're struggling with anxiety or depression, or things at home are really, really tough. Their family's just trying to get food on the table, and sometimes they can't. And we have people going through this all around us. If we will keep our eyes up, seeking, like intentionally seeking, we will discover more and more of these people in our lives. And if we just do simple things like our athletes do every day, who have their eyes up and are willing to do the work, if we seek, we'll see, and then we'll have compassion for that person. And then if we can have courage to do something, we can really lift and brighten people's day. But it takes being intentional.
Well, and true compassion isn't just feeling, sorry or empathy towards somebody, but it's feeling enough of that it leads to doing something to help. And that's what we're asking, is that, listen, if you're, parents listening to this and your son or daughter have the luxury of being able to do what they enjoy in high school or in college, or even in junior high, and you have the luxury of being able to go and watch them do that and do it well, and the joy that comes from sports, having them understand that that's not the case for every kid, that not every kid has that opportunity, and to have another human being cheer for them and applaud what they do. And some of them have the exact opposite every day in their life when they go home, or maybe it's at school, or whatever negativity in their life. So the opportunity to bring some joy and really the responsibility to give back is what we think our athletes need to understand, is that they've been given an opportunity. People have made sacrifices on their behalf so that they can play these wonderful sports and have these great experiences, and that we think the least they can do is be aware of others. But we'd like them to do more than just simply be aware. We'd like them to seek for opportunities to give back and to show their gratitude, and by serving, and to do that with the intention of helping, not with the intention to impress, or to be recognized or complimented for what they did. And if more people in general, not just athletes, this is a principle that really isn't unique to athletes, right? We should all be seeking to give back and help without needing to be recognized or awarded for our efforts. But in particular, if we can, in our world of athletics, help the athletes realize that, hopefully that'll bleed into other areas of life for them later, and we'll have more people interested in helping to help, rather than helping to take a picture of it and put it on social media. And that's what that phrase and that principle means.
Thank you, Dustin. I love that principle. It's an incredible reminder. And so recently you have been emphasizing, especially I saw a post you made as you visited Green Canyon High School and met with their leadership council. You've been emphasizing to these young people the importance of the word seek in that principle. Seek to bless, not to impress. Would you take a second and just share some of your thoughts on the importance of that word seek?
Yeah, and Green Canyon is up in northern Utah, fairly new school. Many of the administrators from that school had come from another nearby high school when they formed Green Canyon, and one of the first things they did with their athletic programs were to bring, especially for athletes with them, from Skyview High School, which was the school that Green Canyon broke off of. And so it's been really cool working with both of those schools, and seeing the kids, for several years now, really take to the message. And this particular principle, it's the fourth principle that we write about in the book. the Sportlight, and that we do our presentations. We have 4 core principles, and I think, Shad, it was probably you when we were organizing all of this that chose to make this the final, the of the 4, the 4th one, because it really is sort of probably where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. In our idea of living with your eyes up, we say do the work, and that do the work portion is critical to the whole phrase. Sometimes the eyes up, I think, is the phrase that gets remembered the most, but eyes up without do the work really is just, it's just simply being aware of things, and no action takes place. There's no, real product produced in just having your eyes up. So when you talk about this phrase, seek to bless, not impress, it's a catchy phrase. When you're blessing somebody's life, or you're trying to assist or give, that's the focus of the word bless. But seeking, in my opinion, is the real key in that phrase, because when if you're casually looking for something, we all know if we're casually trying to find an item in our house, it's probably not going to be found. If it's important to us, we really seek for it. When we lose our wallet, or we lose our keys and we can't find them in the home, or in our house, we're not casually kind of wandering around looking for it. There's usually a real focused intent, because the thing we're looking for is really important and we need it. When we say seek to bless in life, if we're casually going about life saying, yeah, I do good, I try to help people. I think in general, most people are, if you're casual in that phrase, if you see somebody in need and it's obvious, then sure, you're going to help. Doesn't take a lot of seeking to see that, there's a family on the side of the road that has car trouble and needs help. So sure, it's pretty easy I could help them. But seeking, when we're walking around in the grocery store, or we're out in public, or we're, in the case of the kids we work with, when you're in school, seeking is we want to focus on that idea that you're almost like a hunter, is really particular and looking, and you're looking for the details, and you're really focused. And if you walk down the hallways of school with your eyes up and you're seeking to find somebody that you can help, it's not going to take very long before you find somebody. If we're seeking when we go to the grocery store to not just find the product we need to buy at the store, but how can I maybe make somebody smile while I'm here today, or do some good in the grocery store in the 20 minutes I'm here. If we're really seeking, we're going to see opportunities. Then it's whether or not we'll act on it, but we'll see them. But if we don't, I think it's really easy we can all probably admit to this, to get through the end of the week and say, I didn't really do anything bad to anybody. I was friendly. I was friendly when it was right in front of me, when it was easy to be friendly. If we're not seeking, it's very casual, and when we're kind or friendly to somebody. But this idea of being intentional and seeking to find opportunities to do good, and then hopefully acting and doing the work, is what we want to impress on the kids. And I try to make that point very clear, that it's not do the work when it's easy, or do the work casually, or do the work if it works with my schedule. It's seek to bless, seek to do good, and do so without the focus being how can I be impressive to others, but simply because you want to give back.
Yeah, I love that, Dustin. I love 2 words you used there, intentional versus casual. That, you could be a very good person who casually is kind to everyone around you, and that is wonderful. And there are many people like that are just innately good, innately kind. But when we're meeting with our athletes, we're assuming that most of them are already like that.
Yes.
What we're asking them to do is to go from being a casual, kind person, that if someone comes across their path that could use something, those obvious things that you talked about, that they step in and they do something for that person, that's wonderful. But to be intentional about those things is a level above that. And that gets to that that idea of seeking. You're actually, when your eyes are up, you're looking intentionally for who you might be able to help, who you might be able to lift, who you might be able to comfort. And we believe that because athletes are in the spotlight, which we've talked a lot about, it's the name of our podcast, what they do has an extra power behind it. And so if they are seeking intentionally to find things to do for those at their school and their community, those little kids that come to their game, they will have some opportunities to really lift people. And so I just love that when people flip that switch and they begin seeking for opportunities to lift, they impact people's life in an incredible way. Be intentional about trying to lift other people. And my experience has been that people who live their life that way, just trying to lift the stress, the burdens of other people, they end up doing it for themselves as well. And it's just a great way to live your life. I had another question for you, Dustin. We've been doing this now for almost 10 years. And as I think about how many youth wear the wristband, how many professional athletes, college athletes wear the Eyes Up, Do the Work wristband, they're intentionally looking around, seeking to bless other people and lift other people. I'm wondering if you have any favorite stories or accounts of people who've done these simple things to help those around them.
Well, there's some bigger ones where I know of leadership councils, and for those that don't know what those are, when we go and speak at schools or teams, we ask those teams to then form what we call leadership councils, where they get a group of them together and they meet monthly and come up with, when I say them, I mean different representatives from different teams in the school, and we ask them to meet regularly as an especially for athletes leadership team or council and discuss ways to give back. And I know of schools, Maple Mountain High School does a big fundraiser every year to help Tabitha's Way. They also do an event out on the track that Coach Boyack organizes for Special Olympic and kids that are handicapped, where they get to come out and meet with different athletes and participate in things. I know of many of the college athletes that we have who are regularly calling me and telling me stories about bumping into people who are now they're the college athlete. This just happened the other day with one of our football players that plays at BYU, where somebody up at another college, a fan of the opposing team that they were playing, saw it was Jaron Hall, who plays quarterback at BYU, saw him wearing his wristband and came over and got a picture with him. And what Jaron and these types of athletes do in that situation is they don't just smile for the picture and take it like there's some celebrity. They're very good at asking, hey, what school do you go to? And what do you think about Eyes Up, Do the Work? And what are you into and what are you doing? And there's just this common language that they're able to speak, because they know that if they're wearing that wristband, they had to go through a process, to get that wristband. And, I receive emails all the time of kids who will reach out to me and say, hey, Coach, I heard you speak at, whatever school. I've got a classmate that I'm worried about. I'm not certain how to go about, talking to this person. And I've been really fortunate to be able to then reach out to a school counselor or to a principal and say, hey, you've got somebody here that really wants to serve and give back, and they're seeing something in the school that needs attention, and being able to, make the administrator or the coach at the school aware of that, because these kids want to do good. They want to give back. And I think sometimes we give them a bad rap that they're these young millennial teenagers that are spoiled and that have everything given to them. And the truth is that they're great kids who see problems going on in their community, but some of them just don't know what to do. And all that we're trying to do, and all that this phrase of seek to bless, not impress is trying to do, is just encourage them to act, just to try. And it's amazing to hear, the stories that come in of some of just the little things that kids do, whether it's doing a thank you wall that we had Salem High School do, where they just a gratitude wall, writing things they were grateful for, people in their school and teachers, and they had a little section in the hallway. And then Cedar City High School down in southern Utah did something similar, and they wrote notes to different administrators and teachers and random kids in the school to compliment them or telling something they appreciated about them, and stand at the door, and a bunch of the athletes gave out candy to kids one day as they walked in. I know it. I can't remember what high school it was. They did a deal at lunch. They had Eyes Up Week, and during lunchtime they set up different games around the school in the hallways and in the gym, and the athletes would go and find kids they didn't know in the school and ask them to come and play spike ball and volleyball and different types of games they had set up at lunchtime just to get to know other kids, and the sophomores and the non-athletes, and just being just out there in front of people and trying to create community and involvement, and that's what creates real school spirit and real appreciation for each other. And so there's countless examples of kids out there doing good, kids who have live in different countries now, who have written emails wanting to know if they could get the wristbands sent to them in different languages to give out to the people that they now live with. And it's story after story. And it's because these kids want to give back. They want to do good. And all this wristband does is just remind them that be aware, and then do your best to do the work because there's opportunities every day to do so.
Yeah. One of the schools that really sticks out to me, you mentioned something similar to this, but there was a school who decided that every Friday they had an open campus where people could leave and go to lunch places and things like that. But they realized that a lot of the kids who needed friends and needed someone to put their arm around them were staying at the school. And so they decided every Friday they would stay home and open up the gym and stay at school at lunch and play those spike ball and cornhole and play those games, and intentionally invite kids at their school, hey, come over and be with us, and let's play some games. And it just gave a venue for them to invite and get to know kids who maybe were on the periphery of their school. Another one that, man, just stuck out to me was a mom came up to me after a presentation. In the year previous, a young lady had gone to our presentation, and there was a girl who had moved into the community from another place, and she was new. And the new girl's mother said, you're not going to sit at home for another Friday night. Like, you're going to invite people over to our house. The kids here are nice. You're just being too shy, and told her you have to invite kids over. And so this girl sent out kind of a text to some of the girls that she had met, and this particular team. So they started to text back and forth on the line saying, like, who is this girl? I don't know who this is. Is anyone else going? And this one girl kind of got the gist that no one was going to go. And so she decided, I'm just going to go, just quietly. I'm just going to go. So she showed up to the girl's house, and the mom had bought 5 or 6 pizzas and had a cooler full of soda. And this one girl was the only one who showed up from the whole school, all the kids that invited her. And that sounds like a sad story, but the mom said the mom of the new girl called her and said, your daughter saved my daughter's life. I mean, she was just at her wit's end. She was mad at us for moving here, and your daughter came and had some pizza and drank some soda and laughed with my daughter. And ever since, she's taken her to lunch and introduced her to friends. And that one girl showing up to that party that we planned just saved my daughter. And I just love those individual stories too, of where a kid just has their eyes up, notices that, hey, I could do something good here. It's something as simple as going and eating pizza and drinking a soda and laughing with someone literally change someone's life. And I love those individual quiet stories too. But it takes seeking. It takes intentionality. It takes not just walking around, and if anyone asks me for something, I will do something for them, but looking and taking risk, taking the chance to maybe someone would reject you. I've never met someone who does that. I guess it's possible, but there's a wonderful example after wonderful example of these people who are keeping their eyes up and doing the work and being intentional about it. So,
well, and seeking too, and even in that story you told, seeking sometimes probably requires us to think a little bit deeper about, what, in the case of this girl who ended up going, she was seeking to find out what was the, what's the potential harm done if I don't go. She was intentional in thinking about, well, if no one else is going to go and I don't go, hey, nobody went. It's my friends. I couldn't go. I'm sure she had a reason, an excuse she could have given to why she couldn't go, and no one else did. And so she's just one of the group that couldn't make it. But she was intentional in seeking to think about, well, what's the real situation here? What's the real reason maybe that this girl is sending out this invite? Maybe she's lonely. Maybe she is new, so she's probably trying to put herself out there.
right.
And by seeking to really understand the situation, she was able to realize, no, I need to go, and I'm guessing a friendship was probably formed from that. And to your point earlier, she and the new girl both were blessed, to take a word from that phrase, seek to bless, not impress. They both were benefited. And there was no intention to do that to be complimented. She wasn't doing that to be on a thank you Facebook post by that mom someday about how, thankful she was for this girl. She was just doing it because, I say this all the time to kids, you can't have too many friends in life. And so, go be a best friend to a lot of people. But this idea of seeking, with real intent, I think, when we say intent or real intent or really seeking, do we listen with the intent to reply, to answer, or do we listen with the intent to understand? And I think that story you just told, and hopefully the kids that we're talking to are listening when you're seeking to help somebody. When you get talking with them, your intent is to understand. It's not to reply and answer. It's to what's going on, and then how can I serve, and how can I help, and not to impress anybody, not to be recognized, but to just give back, just to be a good person, a servant leader. And that's what real leadership is. That the best leaders in the world were people who had courage, they were humble, and they served other people. And that's what we're trying to get these kids to understand. But to do so casually is just to kind of pitter patter through life, casually being good. That's not enough. That's not work. And our phrase is do the work, not do what's easy. And it takes work to seek.
Awesome, Dustin. And it's, maybe to close up, one final thought I had is Nick Saban sharing, Cameron Stewart and I did a podcast on this when he talked about and but. When someone's giving a scouting report, it'll say, well, this guy can run like a deer, great ball skills. And he went through all these football skills. And he said, and then that scouting report always ends with two words, and but. If it's but, it means, but he's hard to coach, but he's not a very good teammate, but he struggles in the classroom. And then he says, and is a good word you listen for. And he's a great teammate, and he does good in the high school, and he helps those around him, and he's a hard worker. And he said the and but make all the difference. And, I think in life, I know that's great for football recruiting and everything else. But when I think of who I want to surround myself with, I love people in my life that are end people. They're successful in business. They're successful in sports. They're a beautiful girl. They're a handsome young man. They're, whatever that might be. And can you imagine just adding this phrase to anybody? And they live their life intentionally seeking to lift those around them, just to lift them, not to get any praise themselves, just because they enjoy other people's days being better. Those are great people to be around. And so I love this phrase, seek to bless, not to impress, and seek to do it. Be intentional. And that might be a challenge we leave with everyone listening to this. Just try it today. Go to a grocery store and seek to help someone, even if it's the most simple thing. Take a shopping cart from someone if it's cold, or if they have a little kid they're putting in the car, and just, hey, let me take that back for you. Just those simple things, if we seek to do it, to brighten someone's day at a drive-through, or to those more serious things where we see someone lonely, we see someone who needs something. If we will just be the kind of person that seeks to help those people, it lifts them. And when you lift someone else, you can't help but be lifted. And boy, our society could use a lot more of that right now, in my opinion.
Amen. Well, and make sure the shopping cart's empty. When you first said that, I thought you were encouraging people to just take people's shopping carts.
Yeah.
We're not asking that.
That might not make a day, right? And for heaven's sakes, don't leave your shopping cart next to your car. That's a service you can do.
Yeah, how about that? That public service announcement. You're right. Don't be the guy that leaves the shopping cart for sitting in the parking lot. I can't stand that guy.
Yeah.
All right, man. Good deal, Shad.
Hey, thanks, Dustin. And thanks to everyone for joining us today. And keep your eyes up and do the work. It'll help your life and it'll lift the life of others. So please subscribe, please share. And we appreciate you joining us today. Eyes up, do the work.
This has been the Sportlight podcast from Especially for Athletes, sponsored by Coca-Cola. You can learn more about Especially for Athletes by visiting the website at especiallyforathletes.org. You can also learn more about the book, The Sportlight, by Shad Martin and Dustin Smith at especiallyforathletes.org/book.